Hey guys, everybody, hope you're all well. This is the edited version of episode 1, Continent Asia. What we did was take a lot of the vocab out of the show so that you could see the words as you're listening to everything. If you know the words, just go through them, keep going along until you find some of the vocabulary that you don't know. Pause the video, check the meaning of those words, and then go back and play it again so that you can connect everything together. All right? The idea with this is acquiring English, remember? As you listen to English and you build up communication, this is what we want to accomplish here. So enjoy the show and invest in yourself. Continent Asia is because I know Tokyo and Coco and Missy and Riggy and Bobby, of course, keep texting and telling me in class, we want more geography, we want more geography. So this is for you. You thank me later. All right, let's do it. Continent Asia. The first time we talked, not the first time, but one of the last lessons we talked about the 7 different continents, right? We have Asia, of course, and then we have the island continent of Australia. We have, if you keep going west, you're gonna have Europe and way over here again, Africa. Hard to look at a map when it's moving, but that's okay. North America, South America, and down at the bottom we have Antarctica, okay? So I think every month I will feature one continent, just for you guys, because I know you guys love geography, not geography, geography, biology, not biology, biology. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Asian continent. Asia is this planet's largest and most populous continent. It has an estimated population of over 4.5 billion people. There are 48 countries in Asia today, according to the United Nations. All right, so populous, we're talking about how many people. Okay, so the other thing now, we've got, again, we said populous. Populous means the amount of people, like population. All right. Continent, we've already discussed this in, I think, the 4th or 5th live stream. Estimate is the guessed number, what we think is the number. Many Asian countries, not just Asians, but Asia is one of them. The countries, some of the elders, older people, they don't have the same records like they do in Western countries. So sometimes it's harder to keep track of how many people there really are. It's a little bit different than the Western countries. So estimate is a guess, an average percentage, average number. A population over 4.5 billion, of course. Now this is all of Asia. Remember, Asia is the biggest continent for a reason. It starts all the way over in Japan and Korea and China. It also takes up like more than 2/3 of Russia. So it's at the doorsteps of Moscow in the far west. Through, they call it South Asia, which is now where you have India and southern China and then Pakistan and Iran and even all the way to Turkey. 90% of Turkey is still on the Asian continent plate, okay? And then this part of Asia, the capital, Istanbul, is actually on the European plate. So Russia and Turkey are actually mostly Asian, on the Asian continent, or in the Asian continent, on the Asian plate, the tectonic plate. Part of it is in Europe. I hope I'm going the right way here. This way, must be this way, like a mirror. All right, so population billions. According to the United Nations, presently there are 48 countries in Asia. So that's kind of the little intro of what we're going to talk about. Now, there's 48 countries, and we only have an hour and a half. So we can't go through all 48 countries. So what I decided to do was pick some of the Asian countries that we don't talk that much about, just to make it a little interesting. We hear about Mount Fuji in Japan all the time, South Korea and the K-pop, China, of course, Hong Kong, and India, which is so big as well. But there's a lot of the countries that we don't hear much about. So we decided to do it that way. So again, as usual, we're going to show you some of the vocabulary that we're going to use in the writings, in the articles that we made for this show. And we will start with our first country. We're going to do 3. So let's see the first one. All right. This country is a landlocked country. What is a landlocked country? A landlocked country is a country that is surrounded with other land countries. They're not on the water. Okay, so Japan, surrounded with water. Korea, South Korea, is a peninsula, so it's got water in east, west, and south. China has water all along the east coast and south coast. Vietnam is along the water as well. Some countries don't touch water. That's what they mean by land, the land around you. Lock, it's locked. They can't get to the sea without going through another country. So they don't do a lot of fishing unless they got some really good lakes. So this country is famous for a man that we're going to talk about. It is quite amazing what they do have there, actually. Does anybody have any idea what country I'm talking about here? Or did everybody run away as soon as I said geography?
Everyone seems quiet.
Everybody's angry we didn't have our show last week. This guy, I don't want to give you his name yet, but this statue is amazing. It's 40 meters high. When you come to this, I guess it's a monument, right? You can come inside, you can see people walking here. It's very big. You can actually go up and into the horse, walk through the belly of the horse, and walk up a set of stairs on the back of the horse's head. And what do they call it again? A mane, a horse's mane, with the long hair. And the top here, you can see, well, you can't see because I guess it's too far, but I can see them. There's people standing here taking pictures of the valley, of all the land around it. It's a really amazing statue in honor of this man, this past liberator in some ways.
Yeah, I think it's Mongolia.
Yeah, this is Mongolia. And again, it's a landlocked country because if you see here, Mongolia does not hit the sea anywhere. It is surrounded. In the south, it borders China, and in the north, it borders Russia. So in order to get to the ocean, they have to go through another country to get there. That's what a landlocked country is. All right, good. Mongolia. Next. Okay, now in the text we're going to talk about some of these words, but it's not about the animals. It's the type of animal they are. For example, yes, it's a lioness. These guys, like hippo, or long as hippopotamus. And we have the bear, right? Now, the word I'm looking for here is that these animals live in the forest or live on the plains or in the water in many cases. Could be in the mountains. You don't keep these animals for pets. I don't think you want a lion or a bear hanging around the sofa or a hippo crawling around in your garage. It's pretty hard to get them to listen to what you ask them to do. So there's a word for animals that live in the forests, on the plains, in the outdoors. There's a word for that. What kind of animal, or what would be the adjective? What kind of animal is it? Animals that you do not keep for pets. What do we call that? You know, bears, we talked about them in, I think it was camping safety tips was one of the topics, and they talked about bears and how they are not friendly. They're cute when you buy the teddy bear, but in real life, not very friendly. And hippos, for example, they actually kill more people than any other animal on the planet. It's incredible. They attack fishermen that are in their area. They're very, very territorial, very aggressive. And yeah, they more than lions, more than bears, more than crocodiles, snakes. Hippos kill more people. Does anybody know what kills more people? There's one thing that kills more people on Earth. Of course, where else would we find people? Then the hippo. The hippo is the number one animal that kills people.
Chan said they are wild animals. That word can be wild.
Yes. Wild. Wild. Y, like Y, and an L in there. Wild. Okay, wild animals are animals that very, very difficult to have as a pet. Okay, they're mostly untrainable. Now, you do have some zookeepers, or there are some places that have bears and they use them in movies, and they have tigers and lions where they have them in a circus, something like that. It is very difficult, and it takes a professional, someone who really understands the psychology of these kinds of animals. And usually they have them from cubs, as babies, so that they're very, very used to humans. They didn't just go grab one from the jungle and you're my pet, do what I tell you. No, not quite like that. And in many occasions as well, even when they've been tamed, lions, tigers have turned on their trainers and killed them, bears as well. But I've never met one tamer for a hippo. Not a good idea. All right, so the word we're looking for here is wild animals. So the opposite of wild animals is going to be cats, dogs, horses. Now, don't confuse these with cows and chickens, okay? I've never met anyone train a cow or a chicken, but we can live with them. They're harmless, but they're for different purposes, right? For farming and stuff like that. Some people do have pigs for pets. I don't know how well they listen or how they are around the house, but they're not dangerous, of course. But these animals are quite intelligent. For example, a dog has the same learning ability as about a 5-year-old child. It can learn a few hundred words. It's all about the dog's psychology and understanding how they behave, and repetition, of course, to work with them, to actually have them listen to words. Cats, on the other hand, they don't learn too much vocab, but you can live with them, of course. A lot of people have cats. They're very independent. Horses, on the other hand, are also very, very trainable, right? You can ride them, they can do different jobs. They're very intelligent as well. Don't want to keep one in the house, but you could have some horses if you have a big enough property or land. So what would we call animals that can live and work with people? That's what I'm looking for here. You don't work with hippos and bears, but you can work with horses and dogs. What would we call that? What's the adjective that we're looking for here? I've never had a horse, but I would love to have some horses.
They are pets.
They can be pets, absolutely. But again, well, pet can be an adjective if you say I have a pet cat. But it's not pet. It's kind of, is it the opposite of wild? The opposite of wild would be tame, I guess. That's good. It's kind of an opposite of that. It starts with a D.
Domesticated animals.
Yeah, this is domesticated. Domesticated means they can live with people. Okay? Domesticated. There's a few other animals too that are domesticated. I can't think of all of them at the moment. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Some more of the words that we will be talking about. All right, so this is a period in time. A century is 100 years. And by the way, 10 years, see if anybody gets that one. If it's 100 years, we're talking about a century, which lasted, so we want to know this century, okay? So the century, this is the question here. The century which lasted from January 1st, 1200 through December 31st, 1299. Can anyone tell me what century that is? What century would that be? Now remember, just think of the century you're in now, right? The Roman calendar starts before Christ, after Christ, and today we're in the year 2020. So remember, from 0 to 90, the end of 99, that's the first 100 years. So the year 100 is not the first century. The year 100 would be the beginning of the second century, okay? So, 1200 to the end of 1299, what century would that be? Oh no, sorry. Yeah, that century. What would that century be, beginning in 1200?
Bobby is joining.
Mr. Bobby, I knew you'd love this class. What century, Bobby? 1200 to December 31st, 1299. All the old castle eras.
Century.
Which one?
13th.
Yeah.
13th century.
13th. Don't forget to get your TH here again. This is the soft TH, not the Z. No vibration, no voice, just blow. Thank you, right? 13th century. That is right. Because at the end of 1199, 12 centuries have passed. So it automatically becomes, we are now into the 13th century. Just like 2020 now. We're not in the 20th century. 20th century ended 1999, December 31st at New Year's Eve. When 2000 came around the corner, we began the 21st century. I know it gets confusing sometimes to the students, but you'll get it. And you guys have you have the lunar years here, and you have the Ramadan calendar, and there's a lot of calendars around the world. There's a few other ones as well. Okay, let's go to the next one here. These are old castles back in the 12th century and 13th century, which is where many of them lived. All right, so we were talking about Asia and how much area it took. All right, so there's a word when we're talking about the farmers or of the country. And usually this is all the open areas. I mean, it can be what you buy as well to build a house. But there's a word for that.
Bobby, field.
There are fields. You can buy a field. But we don't usually say the fields of the country. That's another word. It means pretty much the same. Except field is definitely an open area. But you wouldn't call a mountain, well, this word. I almost gave it to you again.
Big Pig just joined. Hello, sorry, I'm late.
Oh my God, Big Pig. Unbelievable. Big Pig, what do we call this? The countryside what? You need a lot of to farm cattle, for example. It'd be pretty hard to keep 100 cows in your backyard unless you had like this. How would we describe this? Or like this. This looks like a farmhouse too. They got animals and horses running around. Beautiful landscape too, with the foothills here and mountains in here. I did ask a question. I was waiting for an answer. But what was the question I asked a while ago?
10 years.
Yeah, what do we call 10 years? Anybody get that one? 100 years is a century. What is 10 years? It's called a decade.
About the countryside land.
Yeah, land. This would be countryside land. Land is the word we're looking for, yes. The land. And often land can be a field. That's right.
Decades.
Decade.
Decades.
Decade is 10 years. Century is 100 years. What's 1,000 years?
Bing. Just joined too. Hello, sorry, I'm late.
Hello, Bing. Don't be late again. Unbelievable. What's 1,000 years? 10 years is a decade. 100 years is a century. 1,000 years is a millennium. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got some land, some of the words we'll be hearing about. Okay, this is I wouldn't say a dying breed, but less and less people live like this. These people, now again, we're talking about Mongolia now. This is where we started on our 3 countries in Asia today. Now, in Mongolia, there are a lot of people who don't actually own land and build a house. We talked about land. They travel the land. There's a lot of open area. There's a lot of flat land. There's a lot of mountains to the west. They have the Gobi Desert to the south. So what they do is they keep their animals. They still live very much an old-fashioned style. And these are called jeers, tents that are made at home. And they're really cool. They got little ovens, stove oven, yeah. Where they can actually put the wood and everything in there to burn, to do their cooking, and to keep everything hot. Everything's insulated. And they got electricity or power pack electricity. It's really homey and really, really impressive how well these things are built. These jeers are built. But the great thing about them is that they can tear them apart in a day, pack them up on their animals, and then move 20 kilometers away, and then set up again to have new grass or new pastures for the animals to feed. And then a few weeks later, they'll move on to another location, and then they'll move to go to a market and sell some of their animals and get some new animals. And this is how they live. There's a word for these people of how they live. People that don't actually have a home, a stationary home. It's also, and one of the stories I want to do soon is about all the deserts around the world. I read a very interesting book on that, and it was a lesson that we ran here before too. And in that lesson, which I will do at some point, there are similar people that move all the time as well. And they're mostly traders, and that's what they do. They make these mobile tents and homes, and they live all over the Sahara Desert in Africa. Does anybody know the name? What we call these people? People who move from place to place and don't have one set home, usually carrying their livestock, is what they call it, livestock, their animals.
Migratory.
Immigration, or migrators. Yeah, that's when people move to another country or area, usually country, I think, when it comes to immigration or migration, where people move to an area. But that's usually people that lived here and for some reason they leave and then they make a new home. It's not people that move from place to place to place to place all year round within the same country.
Nomads.
Yeah. Nomads. That's what they call these people. And again, the numbers are going down. More and more people are starting to say, okay, you know what? I can build a house. I don't have to move all the time. So the numbers are going down as far as the amount of people who are nomads. It would be rough for kids growing up with education as well, I would think. And it would be pretty hard to get the internet in the middle of nowhere. So the world is changing very fast, for sure. But there are also a lot of nomad lifestyles in desert areas as well. Nomads, that's what we call these people. And Mongolia is famous for many nomads. Okay, nomads. Next. All right, so this is our next country now that we said we were going to talk about. This is the second one. Has a very unusual flag, for one part. And it is also a landlocked country. It's not a very big country, but it is also landlocked between, which is called Tibet, China, and to the south, India. And it's in a very amazing place too, which we're going to talk more about as we talk about this country. Their flag is 2 triangles. It's the only one in the world like this. There is no white here, that's just the picture. We should have cut that out actually. And what it represents is the Hindu religion and the Buddhist religion. And the two triangles represent the 2 religions. And it also represents the mountains, the mountainous area that this country is in. Now, keep in mind, Buddhism, for example, a lot of people, Vietnam and China and Thailand, Indochina, these countries, Buddhism is very big, all the way out to India and Nepal, of course. This is Nepal, by the way. I did it again! Bobby, it's your fault! Unbelievable. Nepal. Alright, so I gave it to you. You wouldn't have guessed it anyway. I know. So I'm doing you, I'm helping you here. So again, as I was saying, Buddhism, don't be surprised if you ask someone from Indochina or India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and you ask what their religion is, and they say they don't have a religion. Because most Buddhists, to my knowledge, don't recognize Buddhism as a religion. It's kind of like a lifestyle and a belief. Where in other countries, Christians and Catholics and they all, Islam, they all call it religion. But Buddhism is a little bit different. All right, so Nepal is our second country on our list today. Next. So, yes, there's a few reasons why it's famous, but it is it's in northern India, but it also borders all of these mountains, and we're talking thousands of miles of, well, maybe not 1,000 miles, but 1,000 kilometers or so of amazingly huge mountains. What is the name of this mountain range is what I'm looking for here. And it is huge. I mean, there's a reason why the people from India and the people of China are very different. You can't walk across the border. And the border is actually along the ridges of these mountains from the tops. This side is India, that side is China. So it's no surprise that back in the Marco Polo times, in the 1200s and 1300s, when all these empires were growing, there was no interaction between these different cultures, because these mountains are so big and so wide. It's almost like Asian people meeting North American people. The oceans prevent you from walking over to meet each other or to do trade. You had to go by ship or you had to fly. And there were no planes then, for sure. So it's the same thing. People couldn't walk across the border. You go that far into the mountains, you're just not coming back. It's as simple as that. Very harsh.
Is it Malaysia's mountain?
No. Malaysia is south of Thailand and north of Indonesia. And it is a rainforest landscape, not a mountainous landscape.
Again, I guess it is Mount Everest, the highest mount.
This mountain range is the home of Mount Everest. Mount Everest. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. That is a picture of Mount Everest, which is correct. And it is found, Mount Everest is in Nepal. Well, it actually, like I say, Mount Everest, if I remember correctly in my research, the south side of Mount Everest is Nepal. The north side is actually, it's the borderline. And the other side of Mount Everest is Tibet, which is now ruled by China. Kind of a Chinese state now. Yeah. And that's why it's very difficult. So Mount Everest is in there, but where's Mount Everest? I know Nepal, but what is the mountain range? It's not the Rocky Mountains, it's not the French Alps, it's not the Andes. What mountain range are all of these massive, huge mountains? Running out of time. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Alright. It's the Himalayas. This is the mountain range called the Himalayas. And they have, if I remember correctly, in the top 20 highest mountains on the planet, like I think 19 or all 20 are in the Himalayas.
So there must be something wrong because here we have the answer is Himalayas.
Oh, is there some of them got Himalayas?
Yeah.
Wow. I misunderstood. I thought it said Malaysia. Himalayas, yes. This is the mountainous region, almost impenetrable, very difficult to get through, as you already know if you saw the live stream about Mount Everest. All right, so it lies in the Himalayas. That's the area I was talking about. Next. Okay. Now, an interesting about Nepal, and I would have thought because they're such high elevation and they're in the mountains that they wouldn't have such diverse. Diverse means many types of species, many types of animals in that area, and it's a fairly small country compared to most. But I was really shocked, surprised, how many animals unique to many places they have in this area. And this is one of them, but it's the one with the one horn. It's a little bit different. Africa has some rhinos, yeah.
Rhinos from Bobby.
Yeah, I was really surprised to read that Nepal has some of the greater white-horned rhinoceros. Rhinoceros is the long form, of course, but we usually just say rhinos. Rhino.
Zucchini is joining, say hello.
Zucchini, hello Zucchini, welcome to our live stream. So this one is a unique one again. They're in trouble. Not many of them left, but they are the one horn rhinos. Okay, so yeah, we actually find these in Nepal, northern India. Next. Now this little critter, I was really surprised by a lot of the information I got from this guy. He kind of looks like a raccoon, which is very popular in my country, in Canada, with the ringed tail. They're not much bigger than a big cat. They are very difficult to capture or to keep in captivity. They are what they call escape artists. They escape from zoos and all over the place. Anytime they try to keep them in activity, captivity meaning contained in a zoo. Animals in the zoo are in captivity. People in prison are in captivity. This guy, yeah, but it's because of his face and his long face. If you see the similarity in how his long face, then maybe you'll guess the name of this little guy. When I saw him, I was really shocked that that was his name. But it's the red something, because many of them have this bright red coat on them.
Maybe Fennec Fox.
Fennec fox? No, it's not a fox. It does have a fox-like look face. It does have a raccoon-looking face. But if you take a good look at his face, just take a look at that face and forget the body. What is he? Who does he look like? And I'm sure that's how he got the name.
Is it raccoon?
No, it's not a raccoon. It looks like, I thought it was from the raccoon family. But it turns out, and I can't possibly pronounce or remember what family it belongs to, but it's kind of in its own unique family of animals. It's not part of the raccoon family, it's not part of the bear family. I even thought maybe the wolverine family, but no, not the wolverine either. It's in its own. Most of its ancestral, its great relatives, have all become extinct. So there's really no link to this animal to any other species on the planet. And this is in the forests around the Great Mountains in Nepal as well. So nobody saw a familiarity from this guy's face?
Yeah, I think they are red pandas.
Yeah, looks like Panda. Yeah. The name is actually the red panda, but it is not related to the pandas at all. Now, north of Nepal and going into Tibet and then back into China, there and to the east of that is where you find the giant pandas, and they live in trees as well. But there is no relation between the red panda and the panda bears. But yeah, these guys are called the red panda, and they are quite amazing little creatures. Red panda. Next. Now this one's easy, but I put it in there, of course, because you can find these cats in Nepal as well. Nepal, northern India, Bangladesh, which is the country to the east before you get to Myanmar. All the staff here love geography too. All right, this is an easy one. We know it's a tiger, but it's called a Bengal tiger, right? Because you have tigers further up north. I'm not sure if Mongolia ever sees any of the tigers, but north of that you have north of Mongolia in Russia and eastern Russia you have the Siberian tigers, and they actually live in the snow in very cold places. They're bigger tigers. I believe they're the biggest tiger the world has. These tigers in Bangladesh, the Bay of Bengal, are a little bit smaller, but still big and bigger than lions. And still very dangerous. So they're called the Bengal tiger. Often you'll hear them referred to, called the Royal Bengal tiger. And when I was younger, I believed that the white Bengal tiger was the Royal Bengal, but I'm wrong. They used to be called the Royal Bengal because the national anima for India and Bangladesh, all in that northern India area, is the tiger. So they referred to them as the Royal Bengal Tigers. But now it's just called Bengal Tiger. Now the reason we have some very unique white tigers, Bengal tigers, is not because they're albino. Albino is some people, some animals are albino, where every hair on their body is completely white. It's just they're just totally white. Eyelash, arms, hair, white. If that were the case, you wouldn't have black stripes. This is just a rare skin condition that tigers get just like people. and they don't have, it's called a pigmentation. Like I said, some words will be B1, B2 level. But in your skin, there are different pigmentations, they're called, and it's what gives you color. And these cats don't have it. That's why their hair doesn't become orange. So they're white, but they look really amazing because of it. So anyway, they're Bengal tigers.
What do you say something like epic? Lions, epic? Epic?
How do you spell it?
E-P-I-C?
Epic. Epic. Write again, Bobby, what you're trying to say there. Epic what? Epic. What does it say?
It's just like lions, and after that
Epic
I say
lions.
epic.
Oh, I don't know about that one, Bobby. They do have lions in India. There is a national park in the west of India. And I don't remember the name of that park, but they do have lions there. But I don't believe there are any other lions in the world except Africa. But tigers, yes, you can find tigers in India, Nepal. What's that other one? That other country just above Bangladesh? Bahan? I forget the name of it. Myanmar. And they might even occasionally spread out to Thailand and in the northern areas there along the mountains. But that's about it for tigers. Next. Now, still, even Vietnam still has some of these. And we talked about the African elephants. These guys are a little smaller. They are the Asian elephants. Okay, and I don't think any of the Asian elephants have the tusks that we talked about as well. I don't think so. But Nepal, as well, again, surprise, surprise, they got rhinos, they got red pandas, they've got elephants, and they've got tigers. So that would be an interesting walk in the forest. For sure. I got a couple of other scary things too that we're going to get to. Next. Even got alligators. Now, there's a river that runs south of Nepal and runs through India. And it's a very famous, it's a very big river. It's called the Ganges River. Unfortunately now it's very polluted and there are like 300 million people that live on the river. So these poor little crocodiles, and it's not called a crocodile, and it's not an alligator. These are freshwater, I guess they're the alligator family, but they're called narrow-snouted gharial. They're not big crocodiles or alligators. They're called gharials. They have a very small snout. That's what it is, a snout. A snout also, a dog they have the long, elongated nose and jaw. It's called a snout as well.
What be cracker crocodile?
A cracker crocodile, yeah. These guys are pretty amazing at catching fish with those chopstick mouth he has here. It's pretty, they're pretty effective. But yeah, they're having a hard time because the river is very polluted and it's overpopulated. So there may not be many of these left in the wild for long. But you can also find these in Nepal as well. Again, surprise, surprise. I am really surprised. Narrow, meaning not wide, narrow valley, narrow gateway, narrow alley, narrow snout. So, snouted gharial. So yes, you'll even find these near the mountains. All right, there's another one that I don't think it's going to come up yet, but we couldn't get a proper copyright picture. And I'll just talk about it. It's called the Genghis Dolphin. Yeah, you would think dolphins live in the oceans, right? But actually, this Ganges River has a freshwater dolphin as well. And they don't see very well, but they're dolphins, and I wish we had a picture to show you. They're amazing, but they're also in a lot of trouble. A lot of those animals are endangered. That evil word, endangered. So yeah, very surprising how many animals they have in Nepal. Next. And of course, the legendary. He is famous through the Nepal mountainous regions. I'm sure someone knows his name or their name. Maybe it's a her. It's quite a beard. I don't think so. I'm gonna guess the males have bigger beards, kind of like the lions and the lioness. That's my guess. I've never had coffee with one of these guys or tea, so who knows? It's not a gorilla. Apparently they live up in the mountains and in the forests. And scary stories about them. Who knows this one? Someone knows this, I'm sure of it. It's come up in many of our classes, so all of you students that are watching now that have done interest classes with me, we've talked about them. There's a very similar one that lives in North America as well. Well, they say lives in North America. That's the problem. There's never been any proof. Some people say they've seen them, but no one has ever found a body. No one has ever found any real proof. So it's still unproven. All right, let's do it. Yeah, most people locals call him a Yeti. Other people have called it the Abominable Snowman. Yeah, and it's an ape-like creature, very big, 10, 12 feet tall. I guess it would be like 2.5 meters tall. Big feet. And they say that it lives there. People say they have seen them. But again, no scientific proof. All right, but very popular in the Himalayas. All right, so now we're going to go to another country, the third country. We already talked about Mongolia. We already talked about Nepal. This country is not a small landlocked country. It is a very, very long. If I am not mistaken, it is the second or third longest country in the world. It's a lot to talk about. Now, I thought this would be after we discussed the country because this is where they belong, where they live. So we're just going to go with the name, but I'm not going to talk about where they live yet because I don't see the map yet. So anyhow, these are another ape-like, another ape, but it's not the gorilla. Does anyone know the name of these apes? Very strong too. They have very, very long arms compared to their bodies. Almost like they're standing here, their arms could almost touch the floor. They love the trees, and that's why their arms and everything is so long to travel through the trees, to stay off the ground. It's much safer in the trees for them. But they are very strong as well. I've seen a video where one of these guys got angry and picked up a motorcycle and just threw it across the street. A scooter, not a Harley Davidson. All right, so these guys are called orangutans. Okay, orangutan. Now, again, I don't want to give you the country, but what I can tell you is in their language, orang means people, and utang means jungle. So, people of the jungle. But we'll talk about where these orange-like apes live in a few minutes. All right, so this is what we should have had first. Okay, so this is the country that we would find these guys. And this is an area, now, there's a lot of misleading information here, and I read a lot about it. In this country, there are, some reports say 16,000 plus islands. Some reports say 17,000 plus. And another report said 18,000 plus. So I'm just guessing there's so many islands all the way through this country that every time they count, they miss something. That would make sense, because I'm sure I couldn't get the same number twice. That would be difficult. So I talk about it because it's in Southeast Asia. Vietnam is up here, Malaysia and Thailand, the Philippines, Australia down south here in Papua New Guinea. I picked this country because I lived there, and then we have a lot of people that follow us from these countries. But to talk about this country, I could do a whole live stream show only on this country. It has everything. I mean, there are so many animals that are indigenous, meaning they just live in those areas. They probably have more beaches than any country in the world. Certainly have enough islands, and they got mountains, they've got snow peaks, there's no end of different things to talk about in this country. And this is in their capital city, which I hear they're going to move, which is down in this corner, which looks like they're going to move in here. That's what I read. And this is their national monument. It's called the Monas. I have been there many times. I used to live in this capital city. I lived there for 8 years. It's a very big city. The metropolitan area is estimated at 30 million people. You want to talk about traffic jams? Whew! Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, so come on, all you people from Indonesia. Mohammed, it's your home. Who put that up there? Did you do that? It was Chang. It was Chang who did that. I know it. Indonesia is our third country today, and as I said, there is so much I can talk about this country. I mean, I guess that's a lot for all the countries, but this one's a bit special. And again, I lived there before. I know a lot of people there, and there's a lot of people in Indonesia that watch our show. So I picked a couple of the key things about Indonesia that we would talk about today. So the orangutan mostly live in the two northern islands over towards Malaysia and Singapore, called Sumatra and Kalimantan. And that's where most of the orangutans live. Okay, so let's keep going through with Indonesia now. All right, so one thing, again, there's so many things to talk about. I just tried to pick a couple of things that maybe some people would be shocked to see. And this is not a normal lizard. Okay, it's from the lizard family, of course. It is huge. It's like as big as a human. They can be up to like almost 70 kilograms, I think, and 150 or 160 pounds. So yeah, they're amazing. They're very fast. They use their tongue to be able to sense and smell things and find their food. Very strong. They actually only come out of the ground, their little caves and where they make their homes, for a couple of hours a day. The rest of the time they stay there. And they crawl out and they lay in the sun for a while to warm up their body temperature. And then they go hunting and they go back to bed. So they're not very active. They don't move a lot. But they're pretty amazing. And we're going to read a little bit about it in our little story of Indonesia. Anybody know what we call these guys? They're named after a mythical creature. So this is like something you see in your video games or in the movies. Again, something that is never proven to exist, but some people believe in them.
Komodo Dragon.
Yes, they're called the Komodo Dragon. I'm not quite sure how they got the name dragon, but Komodo isn't the formal wear in Japan called a Komodo? Kimono, that's right. See, I don't know everything. But the island is called Komodo. When I lived there, I was under the understanding that they only lived on one island, but apparently there are 2 or 3 islands around this area near Bali. And when we get to the map, I'll show you where it is. And they live there, but I guess they're on 2 or 3 other islands as well. So they're pretty amazing. The only place in the world you can find the world's largest lizard, and he's called the Komodo Dragon. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, so I guess I have to tell you a little bit more about the Komodo Dragon. It also says that it's not a venom, they're not poisonous, but they do have some kind of secretion or in their saliva in their mouth where it's toxic. So perhaps smaller animals, it kind of weakens them. Did I give the word away again? No, I didn't. Okay, good. Not a venom. They're not like snakes where they bite you and then the person dies or something like that. But they do have something. It's not as strong, but there's a word for that. Something that's poisonous or something that is, it could be from chemicals, something that is just not good for you. Usually this symbol is very hard to find a picture to show this. They often call it this waste from factories and different things like that. They're called, it's a toxin, or the word I'm looking for is toxic. Toxic, I mean, it's not very good for you. Toxic is not good for you. Okay. Toxic. All right. So let's go through these words. Now, I understand for some of you, you don't speak Vietnamese either. So we'll start putting the phonics here for all the other folks that are watching. But this time we decided we'd put the Vietnamese one more time, as they're the largest group that watches us. So the first one was Mongolia, right? A landlocked country between Russia and China. Landlocked meaning they do not border the oceans or any major seas. They're surrounded by other countries and land. Wild are the animals that live out in nature, in the forest, in the jungles, and in deserts and mountains and different areas, or the oceans. Domesticated is an animal that can live with people or work with people. 13th century is 100 years, time period between January 1st, 1200 to December 31st, 1299. Right? Now we are 2020, so we are in the 21st century. Okay, and land is where we live, on the land. Nomads, there'll be a Z sound, nomads. And these are the people that move around and usually move their animals from place to place. It's not like where most of us live, where you go to work and then you come home to your house, where you rent or you own. These people just take the house and move, just like that. And they're very common in Mongolia and the Sahara Desert. Nepal is our second country that we talked about, high up in the Himalayas, a very, very unique country. The Himalayas is the mountain ranges of thousands and thousands and thousands of mountains, which has more than most of all the tallest mountains in the world. It's the highest mountain range. The red panda is that raccoon-looking, red panda face, fox-looking red panda. Doesn't really belong anywhere except the Himalayas. And the great one-horned rhinoceros, which is a big surprise to know that they live up there as well. They have a lot of rainforests up there as well too, so but they'd have to, right? They've got the Bengal tigers, they've got the Asian elephants, and through that Ganges river that runs in northern India, a massive waterway that runs off from the Himalayas. They have some incredible species in there. They have the gharial, which looks like an alligator. I don't know if it actually belongs to the alligator family. Gharial, this narrow-snouted gharial, and arguably, debatably, the abominable snowman, the yeti. And I also told you about the dolphin that they have there too. So it'd be pretty odd or rare to see dolphins in rivers. Usually they're in the ocean. And then the last country, again, it's just so many things we can talk about in this country. And so many islands are so different from the others, from Sulawesi to Kalimantan to Sumatra to Java. Huge area. Indonesia, some of the things they have that are pretty amazing is the Komodo Dragon. Toxin was the word about their bites. And orangutan, the jungle people, the apes that live mostly in Kalimantan and Sumatra. And we're gonna go back to Mongolia now for our little reading. So I think looking at the vocab, we had the orangutan was supposed to be the last one, but it got mixed up there. So we'll have to pay attention next time. All right, so we're back to Mongolia now. I'm going to give you a couple of little readings, little articles that we've done about the information that we showed you. And then we'll ask you some questions. All right, so going back to Mongolia, we said we would talk about this guy. This guy's name is Genghis Khan, and he's known by other names as well, but I don't know all of them. Mongolia is known as the land of blue skies. The capital city is, now, as I read the first time, I'm going to explain some of the words like we did in the intro. And then I'll read at normal speed, and then we'll go to the next one. I looked at 3 different sources for how to pronunciate this word. The capital city. Some were like Ulaanbaatar, some were Ulaanbaatar. And then I read the comments underneath, and many people in Mongolia were very upset and said that they were all absolutely wrong. Apparently, Ulaanbaatar, not the right pronunciation, and I cannot do the right pronunciation, but apparently the UL is kind of a rolling R into the An, so Ulaanbaatar, something like that. I can't say it either, and if anybody actually knows how to do it, send us a recording so we'll know how to say it properly. So, Ulaanbaatar, forgive me, is the capital city. It is often described as the coldest capital city on earth. Now, it is south of Russia. Don't confuse coldest place. Specifically, they say the coldest capital, all right? I don't think there's a capital city in Antarctica, and if there was, it would be the coldest, of course. But you have Moscow up in Russia, you have the capitals of Scandinavia, like Stockholm in Sweden, and Solo in Norway or Finland. They're northern cities, Ottawa in Canada. So my point is this. They're usually in the south of those countries, which are all in the polar climate zones, and they're all very cold too. But I can understand why some people believe it's the coldest city. You have mountains to the west, and you have the desert to the south. You have this Siberia, which is the forest of northern Russia at the north, with all the cold air from the Arctic coming. They say the temperatures here in winter can drop to the minus 40s. Yeah, 40s. So looking at the landscape and where it is, I'm sure it gets very cold there. Taval. Hello,
somebody
Pavel.
in Mongolia need throat singing. Throat singing.
Start singing. All right, so they say it's the coldest capital on earth, not the coldest city, coldest capital city. All right, okay. Its landscape is mountainous to the west, and open green grasslands give way to the Gobi Desert in southern China, right, in the south. Mongolia is landlocked, right? They can't get to the ocean, between Russia and China in Eastern Asia. It is likely most famous for one person, this guy. Remember that 40-meter statue we saw at the very beginning, where you can actually go through the horse and up to the top of the horse's head to see the valleys of, I should call it the grasslands of Mongolia and the mountains to the west? Genghis Khan. He was born by the name of Temujin sometime in 1162 and died in 1227. Genghis Khan is a three-part series presentation in order to talk about his life. But basically, he had dominated everything, ruled everything from Eastern Asia all the way to Eastern Europe, and as far down as Vietnam and all the way down to Saudi Arabia. I mean, he was huge. He owned probably more land than the Roman Empire, and he was the ruler. So it's quite a story about this guy. You can research him and watch YouTube videos about him all day long. Continue, the last part?
People ask question.
Yes.
Temujin.
Temujin.
Temujin. Does it mean iron?
It does. It does. Temujin is something about iron or forged iron. That's true. His father was a mason, or what do they call it? Mason works with iron. And I know a lot of the story, but I didn't prepare about that. But I should do it someday. That is right. Temujin was the name he was born with, but later he became Genghis Khan, which meant Emperor of the Mongolian Empire. But that is true. That is true. It comes from the word. There's another word about a mason, someone who works with iron, but it is directly related to iron. Very good. He ruled the Mongol, that's what they called it, Mongol Empire in the 13th century, right? He was born in the 12th century. He died in the 13th century. So obviously in his adulthood when he was the ruler of the Mongol Empire. It says it here, yeah. 13th century. The empire went from Eastern Asia to Eastern Europe. And also other parts about Mongolia here is many Mongolians are nomads. We talked about these people, how they live. There are also some amazing animals that live here too, like and we didn't get a good picture of this either. The Siberian Ibex is really pretty to look at. It's a wild goat, a mountainous goat that lives in their mountainsides. But it has got the longest and biggest curled horns you've ever seen. And hopefully we'll be able to find an image for that goat before we re-release this on the YouTube channels. So that's wild goat. They also have snow leopards, the white leopards that live up there. There's also that too. They have the Gobi bear, which is a smaller version of a grizzly bear, but they have bears that live there as well. The wild Bactrian camel, which is the double-humped camel, and they have Przewalski's horse. Now, the reason that's there is because they are a horse nation. They have more horses than they have cars. You see horses everywhere. People use, especially the nomads, they don't travel in cars. They travel with horses. And Przewalski's horse is one of the breeds indigenous, means they are from that area. Most of the wild horses there have become extinct, but because there were many of them in captivity owned by Mongolians, especially nomads and stuff, they have reintroduced, they have bred them to be able to allow them to go back onto the lands and are protected by the governments now. So a lot is changing again. Ever-changing world. It's a different world every 30 seconds. Anyhow, I wish we had some pictures of these bears for you and the other animals, but then we would be going on way too long. So the nomads, that's about. So let's go back and I'll read it one more time really quick at normal speed. Mongolia is known as the land of blue skies, right? The valleys, the mountains, the open air. The capital city is, best guess, Ulaanbaatar. I know I'm wrong. It's often described as the coldest capital city on earth. Again, capital city, not coldest city. Its landscape is mountainous to the west and in the west, and open grasslands give way to the south, to the Gobi Desert in the south and going into China. Mongolia is landlocked between Russia and China in Eastern Asia. It is likely most famous for one person, Genghis Khan, who was born by the name of Temujin, which means iron, yeah. Somewheres in 1162, and he died sometime in 1227. And no one knows where he was buried. He ruled the Mongol Empire in the 13th century from Eastern Asia to Eastern Europe. Many Mongolians are nomads. There are also many amazing animals that live there, like the wild goats called the Siberian Ibex, leopards, snow leopards, Gobi bear, which is a smaller version of the grizzly bear, wild Bactrian camels that live in the deserts, and they have a lot of horses. All right, so that was Mongolia. Nepal. All right, this is through the Himalayas again. Nepal is another small landlocked country, right, surrounded by other countries, which lies between China and Tibet and India in the south of Asia, in South Asia. It is mainly in the Himalayas. Its capital city is Kathmandu, also known as the city of temples. And most Asian countries have a lot of temples, so I'm sure you understand that. It's famous for Mount Everest, we know that. Now, in Nepal itself, 8 of the world's 10 highest mountain peaks are in Nepal. So 8 of the top 10, number 1 being Mount Everest. The Nepalese flag is the only national flag that is made of 2 triangles. The triangles represent Hinduism and Buddhism. Notice they don't talk about religion. They also represent the Himalayan mountains. Their favorite mascot. Nepal has a few incredible animals too, like the great one-horned rhinoceros, the red panda, Bengal tiger, Asian elephant, narrow-snouted gharial, the alligator-like, smaller alligator-like reptile that lives in that river. Here it is. And the Ganges freshwater dolphin. The legend of the Yeti, or Abominable Snowman, is an ape-like creature that some locals believe inhabits means to live in that area, inhabits the Himalayan region all along those mountains. North America has their Sasquatch and Bigfoot too, so very, very similar ape-like creature that they say lives in North America too. All right, so that was what we went over here in Nepal. Now to Indonesia. Okay, so again, Indonesia, like I said, so many things you can talk about. It's such a diverse country. Indonesia is a country in Southeast Asia between the Indian and Pacific Oceans. They're not really between any countries, this one. And it consists of more than 18,000 islands. Now again, some reports say 16,422, some say 17,858, some say over 18,000. Every report is different. So I'm just somewhere around 18,000 islands. And again, some reports talk about population. Some say 100, 265, some say 280 million, some say up to 290 million. Somewhere around. Some estimated, remember, guess, estimated 270 million people call it home, Indonesia, making it the fourth most populous country on the planet. Can anybody tell me what number 1, number 2, number 3 are of populated countries? Indonesia is near the Ring of Fire. It has about, and again, between 140 to 180 volcanoes, different reports, different numbers. How many active? Probably depends on the hour. Just from anywhere from 70 to some reports said 140 active volcanoes. Very difficult to get an accurate number. So again, it has about 150 volcanoes and around estimated half of them are currently active. So an active volcano means there is activity. There's either smoke coming out, steam, or there's lava, or it's ready to blow, erupt. It's a very, very hot, dangerous place. And as we were saying here, the Ring of Fire, I wish I could have given you an image. The Ring of Fire, again, we were talking about the Asian plate, and the Ring of Fire is the Pacific plate, a collection of different plates, which of course the Earth is round, but the Earth is covered with what we call tectonic plates. These plates move. This is how they cause earthquakes. They push together to cause mountains. They pressure comes underneath them to create volcanoes. And the Ring of Fire is all around the Pacific. So all through Indonesia and up through the side of Asia to Japan. This is where they have tsunamis. Through Alaska, Canada, in Vancouver, there's a lot of the St. Andreas Fault, all the way down the southern part of the Americas. It's a very active area, which means there are thousands of volcanoes all around that. Lots of activity. Yeah. Questions?
Number 1 is China.
Number 1 is China, the most populated country in the world. Yes, some 1,440,000,000-ish. That's a lot. Anybody got number 2? Anybody Googling? Where's Coco? He'd have all these answers. He usually sits there with his laptop and Google. Huh? Okay, number 2, number 3. We know number 4 is Indonesia. All right, so that's what the Ring of Fire is. It's a dangerous area, and a lot of Asian countries border that. For that reason, that's why they have so many volcanoes and so many earthquakes, and this is like a mini earthquake every day there. I've been in 2 earthquakes there, and 1 tsunami. Okay, is there more on this, isn't there? Yeah, so the last parts I talked about Indonesia is it's the world's largest lizard is the Komodo Dragon. It lives on Komodo Island and a couple of other islands around there. It is truly fearsome, weighing up to 150 pounds, 68 kilograms, and possessing toxic bites, allowing them to hunt and kill far bigger animals, even humans. Another amazing animal is the orangutan. Okay, more answers?
Number 2 is China.
Number 2 is China. No, number 1 is China.
India.
Number 2 is India. Yeah, and they're really close. They're like 1,380,000,000. They're only like 60 million people or 80 million people difference between the 2 countries. So whoever has the next baby boom is going to be number 1. So about the Komodo Dragons. When I lived there, I didn't know much about any kind of toxic bites. And of course there are stories where Komodo Dragons had, a long time ago, had actually taken children or something like that. But as far as I know, there's no documented cases where they've actually killed a person, like a man or a woman or anything like that. Usually they eat goats and smaller things. And orangutans, we talked about Sumatra. They're also in a lot of trouble with all the deforestation that we've talked about in endangered animals, where they grow palm tree plants to make palm oil. Okay, so the orangutan, what do we got here again? Okay, it lives in the rainforest of Sumatra. Orangutans are about 7 times stronger than a human. Yeah. So, as I said, there's so many things to talk about these countries. You know, each town, each city, each island has their own stories to talk about. Anybody get number 3?
Number 3 is USA.
Yes, Google answers, I'm sure. All right, so that's right. China's number 1, India's number 2, USA is number 3. They're over 300 million, and Indonesia here is almost 300 million. All right, we're coming to the end now. I believe it is question and answer time. So what do you think? Okay, I was going to ask you. I thought that was ancient. Do you think this is an anthill, or do you think this is a city? Depends which part you watch. It's a lot of people. Okay, let's do some questions. All right, so who can describe where is Mongolia located? Who can tell me where it is? Sit there, it's right there. But where is that? Vietnam is down here. We're right here, right now. Bobby's up here. This is part of Thailand and Malaysia. This is Myanmar. This is Bangladesh.
It is between Russia and China.
Yeah. Russia in the north, China in the south. Mongolia is located between Russia and China in Eastern Asia. Correct. All right, next one. Golly green giant. All right, so what do we call people who always move from place to place and do not stay in a home? And have many horses. What do we call these people? We also find a very similar way of living in the Sahara as well. Many of them, they call them desert people. That would be some hard living. So what do we call these people that move from area to area with these amazing tents? See, they even have like an open here on the top. You got their chimney for their wood stove, and ventilation. It's quite amazing. Next time we got to get some pictures of what they look like inside. One of these ones. Who's got this for me?
Nomads.
Nomads, yeah. Who got that? We call them nomads. That's the way they live. That's what we call them, the style with the kind of living they do. All right, what's the next ones? Greenlands. All right, so here we are again. We got Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Bangladesh, India. What's up here? I believe the Yeti lives in this area. And the great pandas live over here. This is in China now. And you can also see why it's so different in China and India. These Himalayas, these mountains, I mean, like I say, you can't just walk across the border, right? The border kind of cuts right through, and you go through Tibet. It's all, look how much mountainous area this is. This is the lowlands, and then this is 20,000 feet in the air. It's not surprising. So most people from India came from the Middle East area and migrated this way. But then you had another problem. You came into massive jungles and forest, yeah. It wasn't a few hundred years ago, if you started going through there, you'd catch diseases and die. So it's very unfriendly areas to inhabit a long time ago. To look at that. Himalayas, they run all the way down. Incredible landscape.
I don't know where is everybody. Translate. It is located between China and India.
Yeah, Nepal. Where's our little Nepal now? There it is. Okay. Yeah, Nepal. Where is Nepal? Nepal is between China, which actually Tibet, this area, and India. Okay, next one. What is unusual about the Nepalese national flag? Are we running out of batteries? Okay, so we got to speed this up, everybody. Give me some answers. What is unusual about Nepalese national flag? Remember, 2 triangles representing Hinduism and Buddhism, and of course the triangles also represent the Himalayas. That's it. Nepalese flag is the only national flag that is made of 2 triangles. Okay, next. What is Kathmandu best known for? This is the capital of Nepal. It is famous for all its temples. Yeah? We have to speed it up a bit. Kathmandu is best known for the city of temples. Correct. Okay. We got a bonus question coming up here. Hold on here. How many people live in Indonesia? How many? This borders here, Australia. There is also, it's this island, I'm sure. This is divided. Timor, East Timor and West Timor. And I believe East Timor is actually its own country now. I'm not sure the details of that one, but all of these islands, all through here, and part of this, Brunei is here. All these islands, all the way up to here. And I say it's very long. From here to here, it's like as long as Canada. It's somewhere around 17 or 18,000 islands throughout this. How many people live there? About how many people call Indonesia home?
270 million.
Yeah, that's what we said in the reading. About 270 million people call Indonesia home. All right, next one. All right, so here's the bonus question. Let's see if we can get this one. Which country is number 5 on the list of the world's most populated countries? This country was once part of India, but after they got independence, divided for different reasons. And this country was formed in this region here and became its own country. And it is also the 5th most populated country in the world. And I think it's 240 some, maybe close to 250 million people live there. Who can tell me that one? And it borders Iran, it borders Afghanistan. It also borders China, of course, but most countries in Asia border China.
The 5th is Pakistan.
That is correct. This is Pakistan, and this is the 5th. Anybody know the 6th? I'll give you that one. It's Brazil. All right. Okay, so hosted by Trevor with English with Trevor, sponsored by New Way English TV. Thanks everybody for watching another episode. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.